Hello, hello, and welcome to the Naked Under the Table show, where we say what we think because we're just as naked under the table as you are. We've got nothing under the table and nothing is off the table. Our weekly golden nuggets are delivered hot and fresh by your favorite half-naked people, Martin, Denise, and Elsie. And this week's episode is the third of our anniversary Redux series. And we're going to be bringing back one of our favorite series on phobias. And the episode tonight is all about gymnophobia, or the fear of being naked. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And I'd like to introduce the host for this week's episode, all the way from the lovely land of Denmark, Martin Johnson.
Yep. Yeah, man, we're going to be talking about gymnophobia today.
Yeah.
The fear of being naked, or the fear of nudity, really. So it could both be in terms of your own nakedness, but it could also be in terms of like intimacy or other people being naked, or just naked bodies in general.
You're gonna get naked.
and I found this. So first of all, this is not a remake, but this is a revisit of our series of phobia, which was a really good series. Actually, we had a lot of good discussions back when we did that series, and phobias are in general treated. Like there's similar ways to treat phobias, but we won't talk so much about the treatment or the remedy maybe today. We'll be talking more about our own personal experience with nudity, and kind of like how our relationship as I guess as a race or as people are with nudity, both historically and also presently. And we'll have a couple of fun questions mixed in there as well. So that's gonna be awesome, man. To start off a little bit with nudity, the reason why we chose this one is because it's really it's not when you talk about phobia, it might not be the first one that comes to mind. But the thing about nudity is that it's really a common thing. Like when you think about it, how many people are really comfortable being nude, right? Like, I mean, the amount of people that I have seen spankulating around on the street completely naked, like no care in the world, in my entire life can probably be counted on one hand. So we all have some kind of relationship with nudity in one way or another, whether we would categorize it as a phobia or not as a phobia, but we definitely have a mixed relationship with it. So that brings us to the first question. How do you feel about nudity? And tell us a personal story that involves nudity. So tonight we're gonna start with Elsie.
My God.
Get Elsie, get naked.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I know. You know what? There was a time I I was fitting pants in the mall. Then I think there was this is a long time ago, and there was an earthquake. The walls were shaking. The mirror was shaking. And I was in the brink of putting on the new fitting, trying on the new pants, and there was an earthquake, so everyone was rushing out. I had to rush out. Then as soon as I got out the mall, I realized that I was naked. I didn't have any pants on because I had to rush out because it was an earthquake.
So all your clothes, including your underwear, was in.
No. I at least I had my underwear. I was still wearing my boxers, but I forgot the pants. I had to rush out because I figured if I'm gonna die, I don't wanna. Well, yeah, that's gonna be the sad truth. If I'm gonna die in that earthquake, I'm gonna die naked.
Yeah,
I was
I was
gonna
about to
die
say
naked.
that. Like when you think about it, right? When would you want to die without pants on? Like next time you get caught in a changing room during an earthquake, maybe you should think
Okay,
about that before you
i-
run out. You know.
if that's the case, if I'm gonna die naked, I gotta. Do I have the physique I want? At least,
Hit
at
the
least
gym
they won't
first.
criticize me
Especially
at
if people
death.
are gonna have to clear your body, people are gonna see
Right,
that shit.
right,
So
right, right, right. If I'm gonna be displayed to people, might as well get a good physique. I mean, that's
Yeah.
gonna suck if you're like, oh,
So
that's
you better
no
hit the
wonder he
gym
died,
just so you're prepared. You know, just so you're
right?
prepared.
I just want to be in the right shape that when I die, they wouldn't know what caused it. Because if you're really out of shape, they more or less they'll probably know what caused it. They'll be like, "Oh, that's why he died because he's out of shape." I want to be in the right shape that when
or
I die,
or they
when I
might be like,
die,
it's a good thing he went though, because he's just like aesthetically
right, right.
declining the human race here.
Right, right, right. So at least I'll be in the right shape before I die. At least they to an extent that they don't know how I died. They'd be like, "How did he die?" Right? If you see
Like
as
kind of
someone who's
Superman, like they will try to
right,
stick you with sharp stuff, and it will just bend, and they'll be like, "Man, what killed this man? Like, how's
what
this
killed
even
this man?
possible?"
Right, right, right. I want to have that at least that I'll be a mystery. It would be a mystery death. They won't know how I died because I'd look kind of healthy, but not really. It's like remember
Yeah,
when Bruce Lee
you'll be
died?
dead
He
on the
was like,
inside.
well, that's been happening quite a while lately.
What about you,
Aw.
Denise?
Um, so this is I it's funny because if you asked me this question a few years ago, I would have a very different answer. And I can't tell if it's because I grew up a little bit or the quarantine changed me or what, but I am a lot more comfortable with nudity now than a few years back. And nudity of not just myself, but other people too. Like, I mean, I'm half European, so believe me, I am not a stranger to nude beaches and stuff like that. Or even TV commercials where they're putting on lotion, but you can see everything, full frontal. And you'd think that would
or
have,
newscasters, right? Some
yeah,
newscasters
well,
are
that's
naked.
different. That's a novelty. But like in Europe, they're a lot more comfortable with nudity in general, and you'd
Right,
think that
right,
would have primed me for being comfortable with it. But in
right.
the last few years, and I mean, it's not like I have a shit body now, but obviously when I was younger, I had a better body. But I think before I was so skinny, I was 90 pounds, that I'd look at myself naked and be like, damn, girl. I mean, it's literally a layer of skin between the air and your bones, So I'd be like,
What's keeping you standing? They'd be like
If
thinking
you had
that.
been a chicken, people wouldn't have eaten you. You know.
exactly. So I probably would have been, I probably would have, I think that's what it was, right? Like really bad body image stuff. But now
Right,
I'm really comfortable with nudity.
mm,
Not that I'd necessarily parade around the street
right,
naked, but
right.
if I had to undress in front of somebody now as a stranger, I probably wouldn't be as uncomfortable. And I used to model,
Mm,
and you have to strip down to near to next to nothing in the backstage when you're changing
mm,
outfits, and I'd be very
mm.
conscious. And
So
that
what?
is where I lead into my personal story, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I was in a fashion show, and there are some fashion shows where the backstage is nice and spacious, and there's some where it's like, damn, dude, the two of you can't even pass each other on the backstage walking where you're both facing forward. You have to like turn to the side and skirt around each other. And this was not
Mm,
just the place we had to walk to get from one end of the stage to the other. It was also the place where we had to change into our next outfit. And this was a duo sex show. So there were male models, right? So here I am in the backstage
Was
putting on,
LC there?
well,
no, no,
thankfully, no.
uh,
Thankfully, no.
no, no,
But
no. I wouldn't want to be there.
It would have been awkward. So we were all like changing, and you don't notice because you're focused on you, and you have under a minute. Sometimes, I mean, if you're
Right,
lucky,
right,
2 minutes
right,
to change. And I just
right.
bent over to pick up something, and I hit something, and it was soft but not soft. And I was like, "What did I hit?" And I look up, and I'm bending forward, and I look up, and right in front of me is the penis of another male model.
What?
I'm so sorry. So it wasn't just
Mm.
embarrassing; it was painful for this poor guy, right? Because I just headbutted his
You
head.
just headbutted his penis.
And like he was like, "It's okay, I'll just jump it off. It's okay, it's not your fault." But yeah, it's one of those moments where this is no longer a question of comfort in nudity, but more like safety
Clumsy.
in nudity. Like,
Carelessness.
be careful. That shit can get caught somewhere. So just watch out. Yeah, so that's my personal nudity story.
How
What,
about
what
you,
about
Martin? What?
yeah? How about me? Well, I, I feel it's difficult. Like it's not difficult, but I feel pretty good about being nude. I try as much as I can. Mostly at home. I am not necessarily naked in front of other people. I don't know if that's because I am not comfortable with it. Although I don't think that's the main reason. I think it's just because I don't want to force other people to look at me naked.
Mm.
I really don't have I never had a problem with it. I don't remember having a problem with being naked.
Mm.
Um,
Can you just be
I
naked on the fly anytime? Have you been naked in a bar? Were you naked once before in apartment
I've taken my
or in
pants and
Z?
my underwear off in a bar. I mean, I have sometimes whipped out my my manly parts in bars. It has happened. I also once put my hand
Okay,
in another man's pants in a bar.
I'm curious as to, and I think I know what the answer is. Was this entirely proactively on your own, or did somebody dare you, or like what is the usual,
Nah, man, you don't have to dare me to do that stuff. If I get drunk enough and I'm like, man, this would be a great idea, or like I want to prank somebody, like like you want to prank a friend or something, like you open your pants and you go like, hey, Elsie, and you look, and then boom, you just open, yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
Dude, you guys have to understand, Martin is so tall and so white that if you saw it from behind, you'd probably be like, hey guys, it's a special celestial event. There are 2 moons tonight. 2 full
Yeah,
moons.
man. So flashing my penis around maybe less, but my ass has been seen by
My
a
God, the
lot of people
show.
in a lot of places.
I'm so
Um,
glad. I'm so glad my mom won't see the show. I'm really happy.
uh, I hope my mom won't either. So going
Ladies
to
and
the
gentlemen, if you guys want to help me out, I know both of their house numbers, and you can just send the video over to their parents. I'm just kidding.
yeah, and
No.
if you support us on Patreon, maybe you get a dick pic. You know, who knows, man.
Goodness gracious. Okay, and this is where I know we're going to take on this later, but guys, there's a difference between nudity and crassness, right? Just plain ass, like, nudity can be beautiful. Some of the best paintings in the world and sculptures in the world are
Yep.
of
Yep. Yep.
nudes,
Yep.
right? But
I think
there's
you're right,
nude.
Denise.
Oh, I have a line. There's nude, and then there's rude. Don't be rude.
No,
Ah.
I think you're right, Denise. I think it's really about the presentation. In any form, in any selling point, you really have to have that certain presentation, even in nudity. More so, actually, in nudity. And you're right. It can be passed as art, or with different eyes and a different title or a different way of presenting. It could be passed as pornography. So it's really,
Yeah,
the
and it can
eyes in
also
the
be
beholder.
passed as normal,
The beauty is in the eye
right?
of the beholder. I'm sorry.
They can
I'm
also be
sorry, Martin.
passed as normal.
Normal,
Like
yeah.
It can
if you
also
look
be
at
passed as normal.
at
I think
nudity beaches and
a
whatnot,
nude
right?
beach or a nude camp. I think it's where you are also. Geographically speaking, that makes sense. So it's really a subjective topic. It's just taboo in a lot of countries, especially in a country like ours, in Manila, in the Philippines, where we're very much conservative. The funny thing, here's a funny thought: most conservative countries who consider nudity as taboo have the highest rape cases. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that is funny. I don't know if funny is the right word, but
I
it's
don't think it's
definitely
funny.
ironic.
I don't even think it's a coincidence. I think
No.
that makes a lot of sense because
Hmm.
you have a lot of inhibition and you have a
Inhibitions,
lot
right?
of, a lot of pent up,
Right, right,
energy. But there are other countries in
right.
the world. I won't mention them because we don't want to make it look like we are calling out countries for bad criminal behavior.
Right,
But there's
right.
another country I know of where they have very tribal-esque culture where they actually don't wear a lot of clothing, but the rape cases are phenomenally high as well. So I
Hmm.
really think maybe the nudity is not really the case. You know what they say: don't blame the victim because of what they were wearing or not wearing.
No,
That's
no,
that's definitely the case. But yeah,
yeah. Sadly, that
Yeah.
doesn't happen in a lot of countries, Denise. Sadly, that's not the case. Hmm.
In terms
Oh
of
well.
in terms of yeah, it just has a lot of sides to it, right? It does have a lot of sides to it, and it's a very weird relationship we have with uh, with nudity and how many
Hmm.
shapes it takes, like depending on the context that it's in. Um, I'll go back to my personal story. It's actually quite funny one because when we graduate high school, it must be high school, I think, here in Denmark. We get a hat or a cap of some sort, and we have several like urban games of sorts, like dares that you can do. And whenever you finish one of these dares, which happens every year, you like cut something out in your hat. So when you see other people that also graduated the same year, you look in their hat and you can see all the crazy shit that they did while they were drunk celebrating their graduation. And we have a lot, like if you drink more than a case of beer, you can like cut a square in the hat. If you do like and one of them is if you swim naked, you can cut a wave in your hat. So
cut a
at
what?
that specific type of summer,
Sorry, what do you
like a
cut in your hat?
wave,
A
like
wave. Oh, like the shape
yeah,
of a
a
wave.
wave. Yeah, the
Ah,
shape, yeah.
things you learn. Mm.
So you have this thing, it's like inside the hat, the sweatband kind of like that goes around your head on the inside of the hat, and you just flip it out, and then you cut the side in it, or you cut the shape in that. And so this specific time of year, which is summer, end of June, you have all these young people that run around in Copenhagen piss drunk, and they are all trying to get a chance to swim naked so they can cut this wave in their hat. And when I graduated, I was having a bad knee injury, so I was on crutches, um, and on a bit of painkillers. And I got to a party, and I wasn't supposed to drink, and I started drinking anyway because it was graduation and whatnot. And all of a sudden, we decided that I couldn't go around on crutches all night, so we took a taxi to the main hospital in Copenhagen to steal a wheelchair. And we got there, and I tried to get in. I was pretty drunk at the time. Obviously, they wouldn't let me in or let me anywhere near the wheelchairs. So we had to go again. And when we got outside, they had a fountain on the outside of right on the entrance. So what we all did, there was three of us. We all stripped naked, and we just plunged straight into the fountain and did some naked swimming. right there in front of the main hospital in Copenhagen. So yeah, man, that's a crazy tradition, man. It's a crazy tradition. So let's jump on to the next question, because we kind of talked a little bit about our relationship with nudity, and it actually goes back really, really far. And one of the oldest stories we know, which we've discussed before here on the podcast, which is Adam and Eve, actually has a big part of it is about nakedness. So before Adam and Eve eats the apple, they are both naked, and it's not until after they eat the apple that they get conscious of their nakedness and they try to cover up. So I wanted to hear you guys, your opinions on why do you think it is that we struggle so with being naked, and struggle to the point where some of our oldest and most significant stories, like the ones on Adam and Eve, has the element of nakedness to it, and actually they bind the element of nakedness to the enlightenment of human beings, the enlightenment being after they eat the apple. So why do you think it is that we struggle so with this nakedness? Denise, maybe you can lead on this one.
So I love that you connected it to the whole apple thing. I think if we're using Adam and Eve as a reference for how we view nudity, we were told that it's a weird kind of almost, what do you call it? Reverse psychology. It's reverse psychology where you're born naked, you're allowed to roam around naked, but you don't know it though. You don't know you're naked. And only when you eat from this apple do you realize you're naked. And that comes with the shame of being naked. And I find that so funny, because when you take that story and break it down contextually, it means that being naked is not the problem. It's being aware of our nakedness that brings on the shame and brings on, this insecurity. And you can take that both as a literal statement and as a figurative statement. You can consider being naked as a metaphor for being vulnerable, being open, allowing people to see all of you. And just like children who are very open and vulnerable and don't realize how open and vulnerable they are, they're not ashamed of it. They'll say whatever they think and what they feel, and do whatever they want and what they feel. Everything's out in the open. And because they're children, they don't realize they're not supposed to do that. And as they age, we tell them, no, 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 you can't just say whatever you want and do whatever you want. You can't just be metaphorically naked that way. And the same, I think, goes for nudity in its literal sense. Nobody realizes on their own that they're supposed to be wary of nudity, if not even ashamed of it, or to protect their nakedness until somebody tells them. And we'll discuss this later on for sure, but until either their parents do, society does, literature, history, religion tells us how we're supposed to perceive nudity. And I think that's why we struggle with it, because our very nature as humans is not to think anything is wrong with it, to not think it's not bad or it's not good. It's a completely neutral, almost involuntary thing to be naked, just like breathing. And yet, as we age, this struggle we have, this comfort level we have, becomes the ultimate debate. And there are people who use that, in fact, to be rebellious. There are people who even throw that out there as almost like a test of somebody's comfort level, of somebody's tolerance level, of somebody's openness, and open-mindedness. And I find that quite evident in the Adam and Eve story. Now, do I think it's Adam and Eve's fault? No. Adam and Eve didn't know what was going to happen to them when they ate the apple. They were told something bad was going to happen, or they were told they shouldn't. But it's not like they knowingly ate the apple because they wanted to know they were naked. It's not like they wanted to have these struggles with nudity. They were perfectly fine being naked. So it's definitely not their fault. Whose fault it is, I don't know at this point, but I think it's very much clear that as humans, it's in our nature, and we never had a problem with it, or we wouldn't have had a problem with it unless we were corrected.
It's like Denise. It's like you're siding with the fact that we should be naked. We
I guess what
shouldn't
I'm
be.
siding with the fact is what are we telling each other about what is
Mm.
right and wrong and what goes together and what doesn't go together and what we should be proud of and ashamed of? To me, I lump it together with, like, when you tell a kid he can't go out of the house naked, when you tell a little toddler he can't go out of the house naked, for me it's tantamount to telling that same boy toddler he can't own a doll or can't wear pink things because that's not for boys.
Right.
I think that's, and we're
But
going to get
why
later.
would you tell a child not to go
Exactly.
outside
And
naked?
the answer to that, the answer to that is something I'll answer in a later question, Martin, to be honest. I just didn't want to pre-answer it here. But definitely, you know, I really think it's not our nature to be afraid of it. In other words, if you remove all of the bias, all of the influence, all of the, cultural and religious dogma,
Mm,
it's not
mm.
our nature. And I'll just read a comment here on the live stream. I won't mention your name just to keep privacy in case you were wondering. It's like being nude in my own house, maybe even just topless. And the person I live in the house got used to it. It's only until my dad got home, who doesn't live with me, and my brother got older, that I had to stop. So this is a female who's saying this comment. And this is going to connect later on to an answer that I'm going to. So this is a two-part answer, and Martin has a question later on where I'm going to come back to this. But I
Uh,
guess I'm just
it's
saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the Adam and Eve story, which is clearly a story, but if you want to treat it as a historic fact, then that's a different take on it. That's a different story. But as a story itself, there are a lot of stories that have the same train of thought, the same lessons where nudity becomes an issue. There's even a modern anime. It's called Kill la Kill. I highly recommend it. It's a funny anime. It's comedy in action. And what the story in that anime did was to make clothes, fabric in general, fabric as the antagonist, as the enemy of humankind. So not to spoil anything, the gist of the anime was we were all naked. Evolution was taking place. We were developing muscles to help us cope with the weather and whatnot. And then fabric came from space and engulfed us and wrapped us and turned
That's
us in
fucking
and turned it
hilarious.
and turned into clothes until they were the ones, fabric was the ones who more or less conquered our minds and made us think of capitalism, society, and all, and
And that's
all
really
of
the
that.
twist here, right? That's really the twist
It's
here. It's
funny,
why
you're right,
no other
and it's a
creation,
commentary,
yeah,
right?
no
It's a
other creation, no
commentary.
other animal has thought to wear clothes. None, right? And
But
and 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 I love that
right,
Martin used the Adam and Eve story as a point
right,
because it is the fruit of knowledge. And
but
evidently, the more we know, the more ashamed we are of our nakedness.
right,
And isn't that a
or the
little fun?
more a society, a certain place, or a certain society dictates it to you. So it's you really have to join the herd. If not, you're gonna be branded as an outcast, taboo for the most part. But isn't that funny that clothes came to be? If we didn't. Oh, well, that's another question pala. I'll answer that in another question. Sorry, Martin. Go ahead.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why one of the reasons why I linked it with Adam and Eve is also because the story of Adam and Eve for to me is also and I think I mentioned this before, but it's a story of the emergence of consciousness, right? Talking about why, for example, animals don't wear clothes, right? That the tree of knowledge symbolically means the emergence, or the emergence of consciousness for humankind, and in this case for Adam and Eve. And I think, although shame is also a part of it, I think that an important aspect of the nudity debate, and why it becomes a struggle for us, it's also because it's ultimate vulnerability. It is your most vulnerable state, and innate as a species, and just in general as a biological being, there's a lot of dangers out there, and it becomes important. It's hard to be vulnerable to your fullest extent with anyone or anything, because you don't know if that's going to be taken advantage of. So I think that's also a part of. What are you saying, Denise?
And this point you make about being taken advantage of. It's funny how a few articles of clothing, or to Elsie's point, a few pieces of fabric spell the difference in that sense. When you think about it that simply, right? I mean, we feel protected when we have like a few pieces of fabric on, and we're not going to be taken advantage of because of it's almost ludicrous when you think about it, but I agree 100% with you, Martin. I mean, it's just taken in the right context, it's almost laughable.
Yeah, I mean, of course, also with clothes, there are also loads of places on the world where you just can't live naked, unless you're that guy, the Iceman, the Wim Hof guy. He could probably live naked anywhere, but of course, there's also that aspect of it. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle with vulnerability, right? And at least symbolically, if not literally, and the question of when you should be vulnerable and who you should be vulnerable with. So I think that plays a part in it as well, and why we struggle. So, like, how much do you have to trust people before you're willing to completely get like undressed could be literally, but also like figuratively, like how well do you need to know people before you're willing to share your true self? So yeah, that's why I took that story, and also because it's old. I just think it's incredibly amazing that it's even that nudity is even mentioned in that way as it is in the story of Adam and Eve.
It's weird, no? I mean, how can in the story it happens more or less split second. As soon as they bit the apple and God got angry, they instantly felt naked. Was it if we're gonna take this story literally, how did God, more or less, I guess I would imagine that God placed that in them, that mentality instantly, like, okay, now you're naked. Oh, what's naked? Oh, no, that's naked. So it's a funny,
what?
Shit,
I am.
It actually is almost like a form of punishment when you think about it. Telling not telling you that you're naked, but making you feel ashamed of your nakedness was a form of punishment for eating that damn fruit. But anyway, yeah. I mean,
it's funny what if we didn't develop clothes? Let's say Adam and Eve was a historic fact, and they never ate the apple, so they probably would have procreated and we would be all perfect and all naked, we would probably evolve. Evolution will take place, and we'll probably look like apes, more or less. We'd have to cover ourselves.
In
We'd have to
hair.
have in hotter countries, we'll have less hair, of course, bigger pores. Our feet
How
would
do
be
you think
probably
like the Bigfoot?
our feet.
Bigfoot, I'm sure
Ri-
but that was exactly
Right,
what happened.
right. Right. Bigfoot might be the missing link. He might be the Yeti, Bigfoot, the Wendigo. They might all be somewhat of the missing link. The humans that weren't able to adapt socially, and that's why they evolved to a beast-like creature. And we could have been all that. It would be more or less the Planet of the Apes when you think about it.
All right, all right, all right, all right. We'll jump forward a little bit, and we'll dive into the more present part of it, right? So social and cultural factors, which we already talked a little bit about. So I believe there's a biological aspect in terms of vulnerability and in terms of kind of protecting yourself.
Mm,
But the social and cultural circumstances are also a factor that can
mm,
cause gymnophobia. And the question is, well, it's twofold actually. So knowing that these social and cultural circumstances also has an impact on our comfortability with nudity and our nakedness is first of all, is that something that we can escape, right? This fear of nudity, despite the social pressure, cultural indoctrination, or cultural appropriation, or even body shaming.
mhm.
And next part of the question is, even if we could escape it, should we?
Hmm.
So I want to do the first question first and go to the escape it part, if we should. You know how I was talking
Yeah, so
about
go ahead.
how you tell a kid who walks out naked that you're not supposed to, and you had that question, but why would you tell a kid though that he's not supposed to? And this is where it comes to another perspective in the question about Adam and Eve, and generally how we personally feel about our own nudity. There's also this awareness put upon us that being nude in front of people can be considered very inappropriate and very assaulting. And so we tell children, hey, you can't just walk around naked, not because it's bad for them to be naked, but because the people that might see them might get offended and might,
But
if not even judge them, ridicule them.
let me
And
turn that around, because there's really another side. It could potentially be bad for them.
it also could, and I'm going to get there in a sec, which you're right, it could.
Okay.
I mean, temptations and pedophilia and all of that aside, but I think the real reason we can't escape this fear of nudity is because there is a weird shared view of what's okay in terms of nudity, and then there's also individual views of what's okay, personal views of what's okay about
Mm.
nudity, and those things don't often match.
Right.
They don't often match at one period of time, but as you go through your entire life, your level of comfort with nudity, whether your own or other people's, also changes. And this is constantly in flux. So I find it funny that we have things like social pressure or even very formal, as you say, cultural indoctrination that's supposed to be more mainstaying or more evergreen, but even within that construct that's supposed to be more solid and long standing, there's always this tug and pull about what's enough and what's okay. Take a beach, for example. You have people go to a beach here in the Philippines, and no way are people going to be walking around topless,
Mm.
much less
Mhm.
nude. And then you have exceptions, like a beach that is frequented by a lot of foreigners and especially a lot of Europeans. And suddenly in that beach, the locals are comfortable with the nudity, are comfortable with the toplessness because you have
The
this
no
amalgamation
bra
now.
tan.
The no top 10, right? Like you go topless on the beach, and suddenly even the locals in an otherwise Philippine beach would have been like, what are you doing? Are suddenly comfortable with this. And so
Yeah.
where's the social pressure there? Where's the cultural doctrine there? And you know,
Right.
it's and for me, the reason why we have a fear of nudity is not nudity itself, but a fear of the acceptance level of this
Mm.
nudity, whether ours or somebody else's. And to your point, Martin, what are we going to get in retaliation? The lightest we can get is a tisk tisk. Look at her. She doesn't know how to behave, or she's not,
Mm.
proper or educated well. But the worst is exactly the worst we can imagine. You can get a child molested. You can get a woman raped. You can get a guy who is copped a feel on unwittingly because he happens to be drunk and naked. It runs the entire spectrum of things that could go wrong if you show up
Why do you
naked.
why do you think that, Denise? Why do you think that most more or less, let's be honest about this, more so the rural area, they tend to be more conscious, be more of a follower of a certain, they're more tribal,
Because it's a
and you're
smaller
right,
unit.
and
Because
you're
it's a
right.
smaller
I've
unit and there's less people and everybody knows everybody. It's almost like a
mm,
big family and you know everybody. If you're in
right,
a
right.
city or a really, really big space with a lot of people, when you walk around naked, predominantly the
Mm-mm.
people around you are strangers. That person who's sitting a few meters away is not going to call your aunt or tell your
Right, right,
sister-in-law or call your
right.
brother up because they know your brother from somewhere. And in a smaller rural setting, townsfolk, if you will, it's the kind of environment where everybody knows everybody, if not by name, within three
Mm.
degrees of
No,
separation,
no,
you know?
I think they've solidified an idea. Yeah, they're indoctrined already a system wherein this is taboo. Then you get foreigners in, and they do the hell what they want, and it's a total freedom, and they see it. And even so, even though that they outnumber the foreigners 100 to 1 or even more, they still get the influenced. They still get influenced by these foreigners.
Because the
I have
foreigners
straight.
don't see them as part of the tribe. The foreigners go
Right,
there
right,
and to
right,
them everybody's a stranger, so they don't
right, right.
feel the
Because
the
I've witnessed,
stigma of the nudity.
right, I've witnessed this firsthand. I stayed in Palawan for a while. Then I've witnessed that firsthand. I've stayed in El Nido, and there's this town. There's a beachfront and near a town, and everyone's so conservative. They would swim in the beach with fully clothed on. Then white people comes in, or black or whatever foreign, you know, it's they're foreign from how they move, and they would be very, dressed almost with nothing, and eventually the locals follow. They're stripped down of the walls that hinder them from being naked. So these are things that are very interesting for me.
And this is also where body shaming is an interesting point that Martin brings up. Because
Mm,
prior to the advent of the internet or even social media, body shaming was predominantly done in small circles, people you knew. Nothing
mm,
prevented, let's say somebody, so let's use that beach as an example. You're at the beach, you're with your group of family or friends, and you see somebody walking around naked. You'd probably, a really conservative aunt or mother would have body shamed this person for walking around naked, but it's still kept within a close circle of people, family or friends.
mm,
And
mm,
which brings me back to the townsfolk thing, because if you're in a small
mm,
rural town, everybody knows everybody. So the body shaming becomes more public than it is private
mm,
because the whispers and that, proverbial grapevine will get passed on.
mm.
Did you hear what Carla was doing on the beach the other day?
Mm.
Because everybody knows Carla. But
It
now,
it
because of
has
the
a
internet,
mm,
everybody can body shame anybody
right, right,
within a close circle. I can just
right,
say,
right,
look at Martin. I can do an IG story of Martin in a bar showing his crack to everybody and body
right,
shame him.
right,
And it feels like a close personal space when it really
right,
isn't, and that's
r-
the thing.
right. No, what the interesting part is, why is it why is it a negative connotation when you say people, the tribal mentality of the fear of of getting naked, and that mentality itself is has a connotation of negative, has a negative connotation, and versus someone who's gonna do what I have anything he wants, and it's like a sign of freedom. So these are things that are very interesting.
I
And
disagree. I disagree. Not all the time people do
mm,
that is a sign of freedom to them. And this is why I was talking
r-
about the body shaming.
no,
I would be in
right,
beaches before, in a conservative beach in the Philippines, and a group of foreigners would walk around topless, and the Filipinos would be whispering around, about themselves, body shaming those
yes, yes,
foreigners.
but it's what I'm saying, in a general sense, those whispers, those people who, more so than more often than not, somewhat backstab these foreigners, has a negative image. And that's what's interesting with me. Why is it negative, and why do we protect that mentality, since we were brought up Catholic, and we should, yada yada yada, and this is taboo, and being naked is bad, and all that?
No,
It's
we're mad
I
at them because
see it.
they're doing
I
what we
s-
want to do, and we don't
right.
have the guts
It's
to do it ourselves. It's
right.
really
No,
that.
because
And that's where body shaming comes
because
from. Body
right,
shaming
because you can
comes
see it.
from,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, you can see it through time that it's breaking down. And you're right. Now, because of that breakdown, and social media, everything now is magnified. And yeah, you're right. Body shaming now is more prevalent than any before. It's
Because
widened.
some girl, or even some dude will see somebody else posting a bikini or a board shorts pic. And this person
Mm,
who's looking at this picture is thinking, I have a better body than that person. And I wouldn't even post something like that. Hence the body shaming. Where do you get
right,
off
right,
showing all of this skin or
right,
showing
right.
nudity
Well,
when you don't
I
have the
guess
body
that's
to back
just
it up?
I guess that's just human nature. I was gonna say something. It slipped my mind. Anyways, Martin.
So it's uh, let me see if I get where we're getting at here. Conformity is basically what we're talking about,
There you go.
right?
Conformity. Right, right.
Talking about
Conformity is usually
conformity.
conformity usually has a negative impact. Has a more or less a negative connotation, and I don't know why,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Conformity does have a negative connotation. I think, especially maybe lately. I'm sure there are times, or there have been times, where blending in saved you a lot of trouble, man.
That is
um,
true too. That is true.
I, there's a reason why we have conformity. Like, conformity is to a great extent a tyrannical structure, right? But it's also to a great extent a way to,
keeping us in check, keeping us in line, and
yeah, but
having
not only
having
that, also
having a
saving you
structure,
for on.
having a structure.
Precis,
Right, right.
exactly. I was about to say that in Danish. It's also a way to keep you from unnecessary harm.
Right. So why should it be
Um,
negative? Why should it be negative
so
then?
that's a question. I think, though, when it comes to conformity, and let's say this time nudity, that um, when we talk about this kind of body shaming, I'm not a big fan of the word, but when we talk about body shaming, or we talk about these things, um, when you choose to stand out, it's not like whatever people say about you, whatever shame they're trying to put on you, or whatever they're trying to do to get you down, or for whatever reason they're doing it, whether it's because you're doing something that they don't want to do, or whether it's because, or that they would like to be able to do, or whether it's because maybe they are just simply more conservative, maybe they actually find it totally unacceptable, or whatever their motivations might be. When you choose to break the rules, or when you choose the path of nonconformity, that's a part of life that you also have to accept, because you just can't control it. It doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it wrong, it just makes it there. Like, it's just there. and then yeah, I mean, you just can't you just can't escape it. It's just there, and that's
Right.
something that you
Right.
have to accept within yourself, that if you want to be non-conformative, if you want to be naked in a crowd of dressed people, then you have to be able to handle all the stuff that comes with it, whether that stuff is fair or not fair.
And I think that
Mhm.
is a nice segue to the next part of your question, Martin. You know, because you are talking about conquering that fear, or at least conquering conformity, if not the fear of nudity
Hmm.
itself. You know, and so do you feel personally that we actually should conquer this fear of nudity because it goes hand in hand with conquering conformity?
That's a nice one. Make me answer the question first, huh? This is one of the questions where I didn't even know what to answer. Because it poses, I think it's a great question. Not to clap myself on the shoulder, but we can sit here and we can be like, okay, everybody should just be able to do exactly what they want. Conformity shouldn't be anything. Body shaming should never happen. Cultural, all of these things. Like we could sit here and talk about an ideal world that we would like to have, where all of these things are not a part of that world. But the real question is, if that world existed, would it actually be ideal? Right?
Well,
And
for obvious reasons, Martin, it all depends where you are. If you live in a cold area without the evolutionary capabilities that we should have developed years a millennia ago, we would freeze. So I mean,
But
obviously,
that
it
doesn't
goes
mean,
without
obviously, that's
saying.
a necessity thing, but that has nothing to do
It's a
with being
necessity.
comfortable. That's not anything
You're
to do
right.
with being comfortable or being afraid, you know? And I
Mm,
hear Martin's point in that maybe the reason why also there's all of this, if not stigma, debate, struggle between ourselves and society when it comes to nudity, is because we aren't all individually comfortable with it fully. There is a fear and different levels of it. And I agree, like, essentially, if you eradicate fear of nudity, if gymnophobia ceases to exist, even if it's not a phobia, but it's something a little bit more relatable, wouldn't society be a lot different than it is today? Because a lot of the things we just talked about, conformity, influence, behavior, modification, has a lot to do with the
uh,
fact that we
I'm
are
sure.
inherently.
There's one sure thing that's gonna happen. There's gonna be no say goodbye to Zara, say goodbye to H&M, say goodbye to. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think so,
that's
though. I
a lot
mean,
of pollution, man, just gone. Phew.
yeah, well, that's
A lot
true.
of
That's true.
pollution
Fast
gone. A lot
fashion,
of
guys.
pollution
Fast
gone.
fashion.
Less,
Sorry. Yeah.
less landfills because the clothes take a lot of
And less
landfills. You'll be
abused
surprised.
workers. Less abused workers in
Right,
factories that
right,
have to double time just to make these damn clothes
right,
faster and
right,
cheaper than the
right,
next factory. But sorry,
right,
Martin, to cut
right.
you off. I
Yeah.
wanted to hear you finish about, I mean, what would that do to us as a society?
So even if we could conquer the fear of nudity, should we? I'm really split. Um, because I'm not one for conformity, and I am also happen to be very comfortable with nudity uh, for myself. Um, and where it splits me, it's there's so many things you can conquer. I don't know if nudity is the most important one. Like as an individual, there are so many individual things about yourself that you can better or that you can do. And if you if you want, like, you also can't be non-conformative on every single aspect of your being. It's simply not possible. So if you want to be and as we talked about before, the path of nonconformity is a really really hard path, because you're going to get a lot of you're going to have a lot of self-doubt. you're gonna get a lot of fucking you're gonna get what's it called, you're gonna get grilled, what you're gonna get you're gonna hear a lot for it, you know. You're gonna have to, it takes a lot of character to commit to a non-conformative path, and you just can't simply be non-conformative on every aspect of your life. It's just simply not possible. So when it comes to conquering the fear of nudity, is that something that should be an essential focus of the individual? I probably wouldn't say so. It's not my defining character that I am comfortable with being naked. I wouldn't say, or I hope not. Maybe it is, you know. Maybe it is my defining character, you know. I don't know, but
Way to
I'll
downplay
leave
it,
that.
Mart. Way to downplay it.
Yeah, but I guess that's how I see it. For me, I have to see it in a context, and the context is really, if I have to prioritize which part of my life I choose to dedicate the focus to conquer myself, my own fears, or to be non-conformative. It has to be something that's damn worth it. And I don't know if nudity is the most important part.
So I'm going to jump on this little bandwagon of yours that I don't know if you intended for it to be bandwagony, or even that if this is
Bandwagoning.
the direction bandwagony.
One Direction. It's
Yeah,
One
you heard it here
Direction.
first on the Naked Under the Table
Bandwagon.
show. We invented a new word, bandwagony. No, but I guess I'm gonna jump off what you said. And if I were to answer this question, I would say conquer your own fear of nudity, be very, very comfortable in your own skin, whatever that skin comes in, whatever that may look like, feel like to you, but without losing the respect for other people. So I think simply the answer is yes. Let's conquer our fear of nudity on an individual level, but let's not forget that we do not live alone in the world, and we do not exist in isolation. And until everybody else gets comfortable with their own form of nudity, or seeing nudity in that sense, to Martin's point, we don't know what that society is going to be like. Just be considerate of other people, and their discomforts with your nudity reflects nothing on your personal security in that either, you know. And I don't think you need to be defensive or abrasive about, hey man, I'm walking here and you happen to be buck naked. I mean, I don't think it has to go that far, but I think exactly, if you're with a group of people that you trust, that you know, that you love, fuck it, take all your clothes off and dance around naked. There are people you know, there are people you love, there are people you trust. And if they don't understand that about you, then maybe they're not the kind of people you thought they were. But don't go around doing that to just anybody, because that would be disrespectful and discourteous, as it were.
What
Nice.
about the one and only, the devil himself, Mr. LC?
You
For
like my
those of
new
you listening
name?
on the podcast, Elsie has changed his label on the live stream to the devil himself.
Nice. Yeah, I just kind of felt like I should reveal my true nature, my real name. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Denise. Like I said, it's just for obvious reasons we need those structures, and of course clothes are a part of that. Uh, Actually, you guys said everything I have to say. So, what kind of a world would it be when we're all naked? If you want to answer that, if I want to go to that, uh, if if we're gonna take it in a evolutionary standpoint, and it should be that, because for obvious reasons we need clothing to keep warm. Even in a tropical country, we still need it. We should if the need for clothes wasn't prevalent during our ancestors, we would have evolved to, like I said a while ago, we would have hair. We would be covered with hair. We would look like Bigfoot. more or less. With our feet would be huge and with massive calluses that will help us
What are you talking about? Martin
through
Johnson's
the
feet already
traction.
look like that. Just kidding.
We just
I
found Bigfoot.
swear, man. You guys, that's no kidding, man. The running is killing my feet. I have calluses everywhere.
You're wearing the wrong shoes, though. See, another thing, shoes. A lot of running experts are saying that we should be running barefoot. That's the natural way our
I
body.
wanna, I just wanna bring out that there are some that say that, but it's not a predominant
It's not.
theory
You're right,
in the
but
running
there are theories.
community.
There are theories, supposedly doctors that argue that we should be running barefoot. But then again, our feet evolved already to adapt to shoes, to certain footwear. So it's hard. Evolution's taking place. The next generation of kids who are gonna be born this
Does
year
that
or
mean
maybe
we're gonna
years
have
after
built-in clothes? Like,
I'm
could
born
be.
with shoes on.
You know what?
No, but
That's not far from happening.
Elsie's right. I get Elsie's point, and I know it's not a predominant or widely held belief or practice, but Elsie's point is true. We were not born to wear shoes, and the way the Homo sapiens feet looked like back then are, I mean, they look similar, but they were really designed to, pedal the
To
ground.
tread, right,
Yeah,
right. The
without
reasons,
I
the reasons
I
for
get you,
that.
Elsie. Yeah.
But I guess our ancestors had to. I guess one group was hunting mammoths, and they had probably went home with massive splinters on their feet, and hey, and probably thought of,
yeah.
hey, you know what? Why don't we put something to help
Why
me?
don't we put some mammoth
Uh,
skin on my feet?
pu-
That might help a
some
little bit.
mammoth skin. Then and henceforth, shoes were invented.
But it
Mammoth timberlands. I don't know what they call it. But you know what I'm saying? Is evolution had to undergo that. I mean, that's the reason we're all clothed.
and especially
Uh,
because the feet are very vulnerable. Like you could have
mm,
bigger feet made for treading, or you could develop thicker skin. Talking about
mm-hmm,
feet, right? And
mm-hmm,
you do to a certain extent. Like if you use your feet a lot, you will callus your feet, but they're
mm-hmm.
still very vulnerable to sharp items, which there are a lot
Right,
of
right,
on the ground,
right,
called rocks.
right.
Um, and if you cut your foot badly, you can't walk. You can't
Right.
walk. You
Well,
can't hunt. You can't anything
modern.
really.
Right, right. Modern man, Martin has we've evolved already to be this fragile. We are very fragile compared to other animals. Actually, when you think about it, we are the most fragile in the animal kingdom. An ant is armored, right? Any insect has armor. Any quadruped has teeth and fur and
and
muscle.
and even the most mild creatures like owls have camouflage and shit like that, which
Right.
we
We
do
we
not have.
we
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we, we, we never evolved to that because we relied on technology. Meaning, clothes is one of that
So you
one of that
see,
feature,
Uh,
this
one of the
interesting this
byproducts.
thing that you guys brought up about shoes and how the evolution was to protect a very vulnerable part of our naked bodies. That's the virtuous part of this entire evolution. But there's a very vicious other side to that. I mean, everybody, I think, who's taken up some level of history knows that there are humans that took it to the other extreme. Foot binding,
Mm.
for example, because they
Oh
saw the
yeah,
natural human foot as being too big, too grotesque, too
it's
ugly, and
crazy,
they
no?
would
That's crazy.
manipulate the natural shape and form of a foot. And
That's
to me, that is the where you take fear of your body, fear of nakedness to the wrong end.
to the
This is
wrong
how
end.
we are built. This is how we are born. And you are going to literally break bones and tie something up to fight
You know what?
nature, to fight our natural naked
Yeah.
self.
You know what? That's a great idea you just brought up, Denise. You're right. We humans have a way to fight nature. Here's a question: did we fight nature in inventing clothes, in utilizing fur? Did we fight nature? Did we stun our evolution? Where was Is there an alternate universe where man did not uh,
Take matters into their own
harness.
hands. Yeah.
Right, did not stun evolution, did not harness fur, did not make footwear, and they're evolved. We would have evolved to have armor. We don't know. We we could have evolved to have
Fur.
muscles that can, or fur, or fangs, or a long tongue. We don't know. We Things could happen in evolution. That's what's great
But
about evolution.
I think when you talk about the evolutionary aspect of it, it ties up with the Adam and Eve story, and
Right.
especially the part of it which talks about vulnerability. And it is just a fact that human beings in their naked form are very vulnerable beings, both
Mm,
in terms of predators,
right.
which by now is mostly ourselves, right? But in terms of predators, in terms of
Mhm,
environment, right?
mhm.
Even look at, even if you grow up in countries like the Philippines or
You
tropical
still need it.
countries, you
You
still
still
need
need
it,
it.
because if like you can die from pneumonia and all of these kind of things
Pneumonia.
which can happen if you get wet, right? If you stay outside for a
Right.
longer period
Right.
of time being wet.
Dengue, mosquitoes, all these. We are a very fragile race. We have the most delicate bodies in the animal world. So I guess the reason that we have these is, but that's a good idea that you put up, Denise. Did we stun our evolutionary growth? That's what I want to find out. Is there a world? Is there an
Oh,
alternate universe where we?
you gotta live a long time to figure that out, my friend. You
Oh,
gotta
well,
live a
I am
long
immortal.
time.
I am immortal, so I hope I can live that long to see the next evolution. But talking about evolution, there's a theory that the next generation of children, of people, will have higher, bigger foreheads, longer fingers, and bigger eyes. That's because we're always typing and looking at big screens, and so these are things that
And we
maybe
will actually
there's.
be so,
I don't think my forehead can get any bigger.
we need to circle back to the nakedness conversation, but I'm just
Right,
gonna.
right, right.
There is a theory about that aliens are not actually a different race. Aliens are
To
the
be us.
future human race that came back
Mm.
because we got all, we
Planet.
didn't need our limbs. That's why all the limbs are thin. We
Hmm.
used
So
our
we get
eyes
like
more.
silver colored
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah, because we were squinting at the screens and stuff. And
Right,
we hardly
right.
talked. That's why the mouths are small because we spent more time chatting than we did actually speaking. Just saying. But anyway,
Mhm.
Martin, back to you and our
Yeah. So we're
gymnophobia
gonna jump on
co-host.
the last one of tonight, right? So talking about being naked and vulnerability. So when you are naked with someone, that's also you could say your most vulnerable state.
Oh,
Like you have
I love this question.
nothing to hide at that point, right? So we're not talking. Although it can be sexual as well if you want to, but you have to mention three
Mm.
people you would like to take a walk naked with.
Take a stroll on the beach with,
Yeah, but naked.
butt naked. Okay. Who's gonna go
So
first?
Denise
I
is gonna
love
go
how
first.
Martin used the word "but" as a conjunction. On the
As
beach,
a
butt
conjunction.
naked.
It's a it's a
And
it's a
Elsie
double
used it as an
double meaning.
adjective. Oh,
It's a
butt
double
naked.
meaning.
Okay. Language, everybody. You gotta love it.
Mm.
Yes. On the beach, butt naked. Butt
But naked.
naked. I love it. All right. I guess Elsie, you can go first. Who's your butt
Yeah, you
naked
can.
top three?
Okay. The first person I want to walk with butt naked. Butt naked means that if you're naked, not just it's not a sexual thing. In my case, that's not a sexual thing for me. I think what's if you're naked, it's it symbolizes, and physically also it manifests some sort of, your walls are getting torn down. Yeah, it's like you have nothing to hide. That's how I see naked, and I think the reasons a lot of men or women in general share a lot of secrets in the spa, back then, guys, people who weren't born yet, this is the future. And back then, we had spas where people can congregate in one pool. Can you believe that? Now we can't do that anymore, and I miss it. And so I guess that's one reason that people were able to converse freely, because of the whole fact that they're naked. So in that sense, I would love to take a stroll on the beach butt naked with first Hitler. I want to see what's it all about.
What you
I just want
got,
to
bro? What you got?
what's I
What
just
are
want to
you
ask
really
him
insecure about, bro?
what gives, man.
Because evidently it's not just your height. Mm.
What gives, brother? I mean, what did you?
What
Why?
made you
I just
so bitter, man? What made you so bitter?
he's
Okay,
German, so he'd be
I
bit.
would do that with I would support that, Elsie. Just be kind when you look down there. I mean, control your face. Make sure you have a poker face and you're not going, oh, no wonder. Like don't
You
do that, you
you
know, because
you
you never know.
we wouldn't know, but he might be packing.
Yeah, he might, his ego might have been related to the size of his, you know what?
Could be,
Yeah.
could
Maybe,
be,
maybe.
could be, could be, or maybe he just has one ball. He's a uniball. That's why he was so pissed. We wouldn't know. Anyways, that's one
Uh,
guy I want to walk. I want to walk on the beach naked with Hitler, and just ask him the biggest question: Why? Why?
yeah. Right. Right. Just
Why?
why? Where do you want
And
me to start? I
Wouldn't
don't
you?
care, man. Just why?
Elsie would
Wouldn't you
start
want to
with,
know that?
yo,
Why?
Adolf, let's let it all hang loose. Why?
Okay. Okay. The next guy I want to walk naked with, if he's real, Jesus Christ. I just want to ask him, hey, what's it all about, man? Tell me the truth. I want to know the real thing. Should I be should I prepare for the afterlife? Is there a key to heaven? Give me the details, man. So in that sense, I would love to walk with Jesus. And that would be actually walking with Jesus. And isn't that some sort of a phrase in Catholicism? Walk with me.
Yeah, but you can only do it. You can only walk with him if you know how to walk on water, bro.
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's gonna
That
be a
is not
problem.
true.
That's a
That is
pickle.
not true. He also walks on the clouds. Come on.
He does, he does.
Sorry.
And I'm sure he's used to being naked. He was crucified almost naked, so that's kind of
You
easy
should
for.
ask him if he can make the ocean into wine. Can you
Oh,
imagine
that's gonna
that?
be a
You're on the
that's
beach
gonna be.
anyway.
It might be too salty, Martin. That's not gonna be good wine. It's gonna be salty wine. And you know what you call that? An insult.
What?
So,
Elsie.
moving on to your third.
my third. I think it wouldn't help to walk with someone who's I think for me probably the prettiest woman ever lived. Uh, Actually, two of them, either Diane Rigg, a Bond girl from the 1960s, or Ingrid Bergman, the Casablanca lady, the actress who played
You
in
know,
Casablanca.
her
And
daughter was pretty much naked in Death Becomes Her.
you're right,
Isabella
Elizabeth
Rossellini,
Rossellini.
that was pretty much naked with a bead
You
of
know your
necklace.
film.
Was like,
You're right. Oh, she was
and I'm
hot
like,
in
yep, she got it
Death
from her
Becomes Her.
mother. Yep, 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 yep,
Oh,
yep.
she's so pretty. She kind of looks like her, very much so. Which is funny because Elizabeth Rossellini is Italian and Ingrid Bergman's German. So, oh, because they grew up Everman. Anyways, I guess that's a third. Walk with Ingrid Bergman just for shits and giggles. Just walking with for me, I think the classiest actress ever lived.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just go next, and then Denise, you can round the 3-person naked beach walk, butt naked off. But I find it funny because I actually gave a little bit of thought to this, like, because when I started thinking about people I would like to run naked with, walk naked with, they're all men.
That's okay.
How very secure of you, Martin. Way to be diverse. I love it.
Well, it's way to be diverse, just not in I'm just not very diverse in people that I want to walk on the beach with, apparently. Um, um, but the first one is Shaquille O'Neal, and the reason why I want to walk, because I'm
You
sure,
really
man,
want to?
that's
That's a
gonna
big
bring some
strong.
fear into your life,
He's gonna need a
man.
wagon in front
That's
of him
gonna
to walk naked. That's what he's gonna need, I think.
you
What?
that that's exactly the point, man. You walk naked with Shaquille O'Neal, and you will stay forever humble, forever humble. You will never become arrogant again after that.
What if he decides to rape you though? He gets horny in the beach and he
Well,
rapes you,
you
Martin.
know, that's a
You will
part
never
of
walk again.
Hey, it's Shaquille O'Neal, not Dennis Rodman. So I think we're safe here. Sorry, on the
Hey,
Naked
hey,
Under the
hey!
Table
You
show.
don't know.
Yeah, I know.
You
I'm
don't
just
know.
making jokes. So, we don't apologize on the Naked Under the Table show. These are jokes. They're not meant to insult. They're not meant to pigeonhole. They're just funny jokes. So for those of you that might get offended, this was not meant to offend, just to make some funny
and
jokes.
you're saying sorry, you should be drinking now. And for those of you that got
I
offended,
exactly said
it
we
was
do
it
not
was meant
apologize
to
on the
be
Naked Under.
offensive.
Oh, did I actually say the word sorry? I was avoiding the word sorry. Damn it. Damn
Well,
it.
you
Okay.
apologize. That doesn't matter if you say sorry.
I
You
just said we do not.
apologized anyway.
Never mind. I am comfortable in my wine. You know, I got it.
Why
Um,
not?
the second one is Aristotle. Aristotle,
That's a good. That's a
because
good one.
he to me is just like, not only is he to me probably the not only is he one of the most famous philosophers of all time, like any man, and you could name all, Plato, Socrates, a lot of these Greek ones, like anyone who puts words into being that survives for that long, it is just incredible, like the amount of wisdom that you can get from those. And talking about getting abused, they were actually super into ass play. So walking naked with Aristotle will definitely be a chance of
And
maybe
and
carry
and
the man's
and
seed.
and it's not just that. He's gonna be. He gets easily naked. He's just wearing a toga. That's just easy to take off. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Adding
cool, man.
fun facts.
um but yeah, basically, because like he also like he actually mentored quite a few people like that got really famous. I believe Alexander the Great was one of his students, right? Which was also
Mm. Yep.
a guy I find interesting. Not that I want to conquer the world, or at least not in that way, but I find him interesting anyway. So yeah, that was one, and then Marcus Aurelius.
Ah,
Who wouldn't want
nice.
to
Just
be
The
make sure
naked
he
in the
philosopher.
Roman
doesn't bring.
Empire?
Just
Oh my
make sure
God.
he doesn't bring his sword with
The
him, though.
philosopher emperor. That's a good. That's a
Because
good
if
choice,
he gets
Martin.
jealous with that sword, just saying.
So yeah, Shaquille O'Neal to make me forever humble. Aristotle for the wisdom, and I guess Marcus Aurelius is also for the wisdom. And it's really just because I read a little bit about him a couple of days ago. Again, I read his meditations before, and he was just one of the guys that popped up into my head. But that would be some very wise nude walks I would have there on the beach.
Speaking of
What about
Marcus
you,
Aurelius.
Denise?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Elsie. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna add lang. There's a new Gladiator movie coming up by Ridley Scott also. So I think it's gonna
Wow.
be so talking. Sorry, I just remembered because Marcus Aurelius, he was the emperor in that film.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Mm. How about you, Denise?
Yeah, I guess it's up to me. So my first walk with this person naked is obviously self-fulfillment and also designed to satiate my own curiosity. Brad Pitt in Troy. Brad Pitt as
in the
Achilles
in the
in
uniform.
Troy.
I
Isn't it
thought
so
about
big?
that guy. I thought about him too, man. He was also
Hold
Like,
on
on,
my
Brad.
short list.
Hold on, Brad Pitt, Denise. That he knows that he's Brad Pitt, or Brad
No,
Pitt
as
that he's
Achilles, when he
brainwashed?
was playing Achilles in
Okay.
Troy,
Oh, so
in the movie Troy.
he'll be totally in character. He
Yes.
doesn't know he's Brad Pitt.
And
He
the only
won't
thing
be. There's
left to
no
drop,
remnants of Brad Pitt. Okay.
yeah, the only thing left to drop is that loincloth, honey. And I'll be good, you know? And my
Take it.
first,
It's yours. That's what he's gonna
right?
say.
Like,
You know.
I
That's what.
mean, I gotta
Take
take
it.
one
It's
for me,
yours.
right? I gotta be selfish here. So this is just for my
Go
personal
for it.
curiosity and visual pleasure.
Brad.
Okay, for my next two, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and do two first. Okay, meaning they go as a pair, both for my second answer and my third. So my second
Okay.
answer, funnily enough, is I would like to walk naked with Adam and Eve, so that I could explain to them shit, and they don't need to eat no damn fruit. And
Well, you
maybe we wouldn't run into the problems we ran into, because I'll be like, hey, two
that's
of you, come on, we're gonna have a discussion. You see this shit? I'll tell
so
you all the parts, how they work. Yeah.
so it's Adam and Eve
Free
pre
apple, free
apple.
fruit. Yeah,
So
Pre-appling.
you'd be pre-appling. So you'd be walking in paradise.
I
You'd
would.
be
So there's an unsaid benefit there, but yeah. But my point
you'd be
is,
walking in paradise.
I would be able to tell them everything without the punishment and without them
Okay.
breaking the rules. Because God didn't
Okay.
say you can't get a friend to tell you this stuff. Aha. So loophole. So that is my second.
You'd be
Yeah, he didn't think
destroying.
about that.
Yeah, but Denise, you'd be nullifying the whole human race if they don't go out of if if they
Of course
don't go
not.
if they don't eat that apple, they won't procreate,
Man.
and we
No,
wouldn't
I will
exist.
teach them about,
Th-
that's the point. I will teach them about procreation. I will teach them
Oh, okay.
everything.
Then
But
You play God.
you would have to
the
switch
only
Hitler to
rule
somebody
was,
else.
yeah, the only rule was don't eat the fruit. So we're gonna follow the
Hitler might have
rules.
Hitler
So
might
no
have not come to be.
consequences. No
Wow.
consequences. We're gonna procreate.
So if Adam and Eve hadn't been non-conformative,
Uh-huh.
But they were aware of their own nakedness and
We
what
we
they could
would
do.
the human race would be
Mm.
just one. The human race would be just literally one race, no countries, no divisions. Would be
What are
one
you
people
talking
in the
about?
world.
Cain and Abel would have still happened, just under different
Yeah,
circumstances. Same difference.
but hold on, but now they have parents. They have parents who take care of them, who care for them because they're not
So
like.
then I'll be a side concubine for Adam, so we can split the seed
But
a little bit two ways, you know.
I
Guys,
think
I'm not gonna get into the ultimate technicality here.
I think
Okay?
there's a little bit of a I think there's a little bit of Lilith in you.
I'm just tripping.
No.
You'd
I'm
be
not
I
there to
sense a
break
bit of
them up.
Lilith in you, Denise.
I'm not there to break them up. I'm there to. I found a loophole. I found a loophole in your question, Martin, and that's why I was like, well, then I'll walk with them naked and then some. Anyway, so I'll get to my third. So again, it's a twofer, and it's a sensitive thing for me, but there's a reason why. So much in the same way you guys wanted to walk with people that you could learn from or share a little bit with or just be entirely comfortable, honest, and open with. If I could, I would walk with my two children. And I know that's not something that would be allowable or forgivable or even tolerable today. I know that. But if it was, man, I'd love to do that. Just the three of us on a beach, or it doesn't matter, completely free, open, and both ways we see each other completely and wholly and vulnerably. And I would really like that. Obviously I can't, but
I think that's a beautiful idea.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, so those are my three. One selfish, one is very selfless. I'm saving the world, guys. And the third is sentimental.
All right. Well,
Nice.
guys,
It's a good question.
thank
Fun
you
question.
for being naked with me tonight, or at least under the table. It was about time we got to talk about nakedness here at the Naked Under the Table show.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody thank you to everybody who listened in. This is still, as we've mentioned before, this is our anniversary series. We are doing an all-star around with all the most popular new episodes of all the most popular series that we have done for the past year. Follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on the Nuts group. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify. We are also on all the other big podcast platforms, and we're working on some new platforms for you guys out there to get to know us. So we just want to say thank you so much for tonight, and see you next Monday.
Yes!